Disclaimer: I do not own the rights of any of the videos, images, or sounds other than my own voice that will be portrayed in this video. Everything you will see is for documentary purposes only and is protected under the Fair Use Act of 1976. Sketch comedy is an awesome genre to watch, and there have been many iterations over the last 50 years to choose from. Some leave behind a legacy after they leave, others can sometimes feel like they weren't around long enough, and few have dominated as long as the biggest player in the game.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
SNL may be the overall king of sketch comedy television, but many others have come along to give it competition for as long as they can. The biggest threat to SNL might have been MadTV, with a 14-season run dominating the late 90s up until 2010. But still not enough to put the biggest dog down. SNL has been around for 48 seasons, and there's no sign of it going anywhere anytime soon. But it can often get stale, especially as its biggest longevity strategy is to continue to evolve with the times. Some sketch shows attempt and fail, but some don't need to, as they stand out above even the most dominant in the space. The Chappelle Show is only 3 seasons long, but it is 3 seasons of some of the best sketch comedy, not only to fans, but to most reviewers as well.
I hate you, I don't even know you, and I hate your guts. I hope all the bad things in life happen to you and nobody else but you.
Of course, there's a lot to talk about as to why the Chappelle Show is no longer around, but we're not going to get into that now. But it just goes to show that there are some attempts to push the boundaries that stand out among the rest. Another great example is Key and Peele. 5 seasons of great sketch comedy that would eventually lead towards the birth of one of the best horror directors for this generation, Jordan Peele. Amy Schumer might have caught a lot of bad publicity for some of her comedy, but that wouldn't stop her from getting 4 seasons of her own sketch comedy series, Inside Amy Schumer, which would get a 5th season years after its cancellation. Now that's of more recent times. Let's go all the way back to 1990, where we would get introduced to a sketch comedy show that would lay a foundation for many years to come.
Thank you, and welcome to In Living Color.
In Living Color premiered on April 15th, 1990. It was a fresh take on the formula we were used to, as it made its focus about pop culture while mixing in the comedies of black culture differently than what most were prepared for. It would be a place where a lot of the biggest stars of the 90s would get their big break, including Jamie Foxx, David Alan Grier, Tommy Davidson, and Kim Coles. This was the first show that Jennifer Lopez was on as one of their fly dancers.
First of all, we have a new fly girl coming all the way from Bronx, New York, Miss Jennifer Lopez.
It would also be where Jim Carrey would make a true name for himself, since most of his work throughout the 80s wasn't getting him far. If it wasn't for In Living Color, we might not have Ace Ventura, The Mask, or Dumb and Dumber. The show would produce a lot of iconic characters, such as, but not limited to, Homie the Clown.
I don't think so. Homie don't play that.
And Fire Marshal Bill.
Number 1 cause of domestic fires. Let me show you something.
Certainly.
The show was created by Keenan Ivory Waynes, the eldest of the iconic Waynes family. At this point, Keenan had hit it big with his film I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which he wrote, directed, and starred in.
One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
While also having roles for his siblings. They would all follow Keenan into In Living Color, having various roles throughout the show.
He's hanging with his big brother now. Come on out here, Marlon Wayne.
Now, out of all of the family, Damon was the only one at this point with some skin in the game. He was part of the cast for SNL Season 11 in 1984. He had a variety of smaller roles in films like Roxanne and Beverly Hills Cop, but he also had a starring role alongside Jim Carrey and Jeff Goldblum in 1988's Earth Girls Are Easy, a film about fuzzy aliens coming to Earth to get laid.
For somewhere to land. It's love at first fright.
The 80s was a weird time. The Waynes would continue to be a huge part in film and television throughout the 90s, and they have still left their mark to this day. The only two that are prominent right now are Damon and Marlon, and they rarely do projects together anymore. Marlon seems to be sticking with films, while Damon stuck with the television route for the better part of the last 20 years, with hit shows like My Wife and Kids and Lethal Weapon. But there was one attempt Damon made to get back into the sketch comedy realm, perhaps to relive the good old days, or to shake up the space with a new look and a different direction. On September 14th, 2006, The Underground premiered. It was a new sketch comedy series that premiered on Showtime. It would have a similar feel to In Living Color, where sketches would be broken up by dance routines and musical acts. While the cast was made up of some familiar faces, there were also up-and-comers. We would see the return of Aries Spears, as he had not been involved in sketch comedy since he left MadTV. We would also see Damon Waynes Jr. as part of the cast, and this is where some comedians such as Mikey Day, Gabrielle Dennis, and Eddie Patterson would get a major break on this network. There were some other notable cast members that you don't see much of these days. Vincent O'Shannah had some great performances on the show, but he hasn't been doing much. That might be by choice, I'm not sure. Either way, this show seemed like it was going to shake up the sketch comedy realm and be another success in the Wayne family legacy. It was given the tagline, In Living Color, on steroids. Where could it go wrong? Unfortunately, the show aired for 11 episodes and disappeared. I say disappeared because you can't find any information about this show anywhere. Its Wikipedia page is bare. There is one article written in the New York Times about it, a not-so-flattering review. You can find some clips on YouTube for individual sketches, but that's about it. Even trying to go on the internet to watch it from a portal site leads to a completely different show. It's almost as if they want to bury this show so no one has access to it ever again. But why? Well, the answer is quite simple. If this show was to ever air today, it would get obliterated by the internet. A lot of the material could be considered extremely offensive. In the very first episode that aired, the show opens with Damon giving a speech.
This is a sketch comedy show and a smorgasbord of urban culture. Now, a lot of people want to know what underground stands for. Well, it stands for freedom, creative freedom. See, Showtime said that they dare to be different and that they have no limits. So, I, Damon Waynes, is here to test them.
That would then lead into a sketch called Iraqi's Funniest Home Videos. Now, this is meant to be Showtime's attempt to push the boundaries, as The Chappelle Show often did. And perhaps if it happened once or twice, it might have hit a little better with most audiences. But every episode would have something involved in it that today would more than likely get the show and the cast members canceled. And this was in 2006. That's not to say it wouldn't be rightfully deserved. While some of the stuff was funny, like Stripper Protester.
What are you, supposed to be like a stripper? No, I'm a protest stripper. Dairy cows are kept in deplorable condition, sir.
Or the reoccurring sketch, Sweet Dick, Pimp Detective.
I see a hot piece of ass waiting to be turned out. My name is Sweet Dick, Pimp Detective. I'm the one they come to when they can't go to the law.
They would often have things that did not go over so well, such as the reoccurring segment African Delights, a parody of a cooking show that takes place in the African jungle. You can even see a young Kevin Hart in this sketch.
He wants to marry my beautiful daughter, Washenge.
Yes, I do. What? Oh, my God.
Unfortunately, this sucker does not have nothing to give me as exchange for her hand in marriage, except himself as a slave for 7 years, or until he has a fatal accident, whichever comes first. Yes.
Yes.
So, let's get on with the show.
Stunts like this are probably what led to the show's downfall. By the second episode, Damon opened with,
I just want y'all to know that we've made a lot of jokes about our Middle Eastern friends. And I got to tell you Americans out there that this is all in fun. It's just comedy. Actually, in the Middle East, they take it with a grain of salt. I actually got a tape from one of my biggest fans. He sent me a tape. Y'all watch this.
The streets will run red with the blood of the infidels. All American pigs must die except the underground. That is a funny shit.
Y'all sit back.
and a few episodes later, he opened with this.
Ever since the show's been out, I've been getting a lot of, threatening phone calls and some letters because of the content of some of the sketches. Well, I didn't see it as a big problem, so I hired a little security. Yo, security! Yeah. What you gonna do now, huh? What you gonna do now?
So the show was getting a lot of hate, and Damon was purposefully pushing buttons for the sake of art. And when you get down to the core of it all, he's not wrong. It's stances like this that have also made Dave Chappelle such a controversial character. Comedy is subjective, but it's still an art, and you should never limit an artist. If all art forms became so cookie-cutter that everything was the same and nothing would cause you to think, what would it lead to? There wouldn't be things out there to stop you in your tracks, make you ask questions. It wouldn't excel you or push boundaries. Then you could never inspire the next generation of artists. Perhaps the underground might not be so bad if you were able to revisit it, or if they were able to continue to grow and perhaps evolve. Maybe the first season was a test to see if they could pull it off, but instead they pissed a lot of people off. There are probably still people that would find it humorous, but not enough to keep it afloat. So, it disappeared forever. A footnote in the Wayne family legacy that most have never heard of, but it should be an example of how ambitious you can be and still fall short.
One love, we out. We'll see you next week on The Underground. Holla at your boy.